Welcome back to the Pro Ticker podcast. Today we're going to do a deep dive on Expedia.
Okay.
And, is it a healing gem or is this, a company that's going to get disrupted?
Right.
And we were talking a little bit before the show because I thought this was so interesting that Uber might be interested in buying them.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, what's so captivating about Expedia is you have this company that's clearly, trying to navigate some choppy waters, but also at the same time emerging as a potential acquisition target.
Right.
And it just goes to show you that, even businesses that are facing some headwinds can become really hot commodities.
Yeah. And I think back to February, their stock just tanked.
Yeah.
After a bad earnings report, the CEO, Peter Kern, stepped down. And I think the investors were like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah.
Especially when you look at how well Booking Holdings is doing.
Absolutely. And, you hit on such a crucial point because that comparison to Booking Holdings is really illuminating. While Expedia was grappling with, these internal challenges, Booking Holdings, which owns Priceline, by the way, was absolutely flourishing. I mean, they posted a 20% annual return over the past 3 years.
Wow.
Expedia, on the other hand, saw a 4.2% annual loss. So,
Ouch.
yeah, ouch is right. And I think that disparity in performance really underscores, why investors were getting a little skittish.
Yeah. It's like you're watching a head-to-head race, and one runner is just like, sprinting ahead, breaking records, and the other one is like tripping over their shoelaces.
Right.
And you're like, oh.
Exactly.
But here's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
They bring in a new CEO, Ariane Gorin, and then all of a sudden there's like these whispers of Uber maybe wanting to buy them.
Yeah, and that's where the story takes, I think, a really fascinating turn.
Right.
Because you've got Dara Khosrowshahi, who's the CEO of Uber.
Right.
He has a history with Expedia.
He does.
He used to be the CEO there.
Right.
And he still sits on the board. So it's not just some random tech giant that's, sniffing around. He brings this very, intimate understanding of Expedia, of its, inner workings and its potential.
Right. And that, I think, it just adds like a whole other layer to the story.
Absolutely.
So, we've got this company that's trying to turn things around, new CEO at the helm, this potential Uber thing.
Yeah.
But the article doesn't stop there.
Right.
It also kind of takes a step back and looks at the travel industry as a whole.
Yes.
Why is that important?
Because I think zooming out and looking at the wider industry context is absolutely crucial in this case. Even with Expedia's sort of internal struggles, the travel and tourism sector as a whole is showing remarkable resilience.
Okay.
And, we all know that the post-pandemic travel surge has simmered down a bit, but demand is still surprisingly strong.
It's like when you're craving a certain food and like you finally eat it and you're full, but you still want more.
Exactly. You still have that lingering appetite for it.
Yes.
And I think that's what's happening with travel, right?
People, they still want to get out there. And I think a really interesting stat that the article highlights that nearly 5 million more people are expected to go on cruises this year compared to before the pandemic.
Wow. So people are still traveling.
Yeah, they're still traveling.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks volumes about, that pent-up desire to explore.
So it's almost like Expedia's, like reorganizing their suitcase.
Right.
But the travel industry itself is ready for takeoff.
Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about what their game plan is.
Okay.
It seems like their focus is really on, streamlining their business and then honing in on those core brands. Expedia.com, Hotels.com, VRBO, is that the winning ticket in your opinion?
It's a solid strategy for sure. I mean, Expedia is really, doubling down on efficiency, trying to boost sales growth, which, classic comeback story ingredients right there.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't be doing our due diligence if we didn't talk about the competition.
Right.
And Expedia is facing some pretty tough competition out there. Okay. All ears. Give me the rundown. Who are they up against?
Well, for starters, the article mentions that some hotels are starting to push back against those high commission fees that online travel agencies like Expedia are known for.
Oh, interesting. So are we talking like airlines cracking down on baggage fees?
Exactly. It's the same idea.
Yeah.
If hotels band together and they start demanding lower fees, that could really eat into Expedia's profits.
Right.
And then, of course, there's the elephant in the room.
Okay.
Google.
Oh, yeah. Google's everywhere.
Right.
What are they doing?
Well, the article brings up this concern from invaders that Google might try to, really dominate the online travel market.
Yeah.
And potentially, squeeze out the smaller players like Expedia.
It's kind of scary how much power these big tech companies have.
It is a little unnerving, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a real concern that investors have.
So we've got Expedia kind of walking this tightrope. They've
Hmm.
got this, resurgent travel industry on one hand, and then this, threat of Google and hotels on the other hand.
Yeah. It's a tough spot to be in.
Yeah.
But, the article does point out some of Expedia's strengths.
Okay, good, because I was going to say there's got to be some good news here.
Yeah, there's some light at the end of the tunnel.
Okay, yeah.
So, like, one major advantage they have is this whole rise of, like a new generation of traveler,
Right.
like people who grew up with the internet.
Digital natives.
Exactly. They're digital natives. They're totally comfortable booking their entire trip online.
Oh, yeah. They would never think to call a travel agent.
Exactly. And Expedia is perfectly positioned to cater to that kind of traveler.
Yeah, with their app and everything.
Exactly. They've got a great platform. They've got a ton of options.
Right.
And it's really user-friendly, so they're in a good spot to capitalize on that trend.
So they might actually have the upper hand as travel habits change.
They could, absolutely. And, let's not forget,
Yeah.
Expedia and Booking Holdings together, they control a pretty sizable chunk of the online booking market, like 42% according to the article.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, it's like a duopoly.
It's like Coke and Pepsi.
Exactly.
Oh, right.
So even with the competition, that kind of market share gives them some serious leverage.
For sure.
But it gets better.
Okay.
The article also talks about how Expedia used the pandemic as an opportunity to streamline their operations.
Okay.
Remember how they had all those different brands they had acquired over the years?
Right.
Well, they used that time to integrate everything into a more cohesive platform.
So they cleaned up their business.
Exactly. They did some spring cleaning.
And now they're in a better place because of it.
It seems that way, and the numbers seem to back that up.
Okay.
According to the article, Expedia generated $1.3 billion in free cash flow in a recent quarter.
Wow.
That's a 42% increase year over year.
Okay, wait, hold on. For those of us who don't speak finance, what is free cash flow and why is it important?
Sure. So free cash flow is basically the cash a company has left over
Yeah.
after they've paid for all their operating expenses and any big investments. It's like the money they have on hand to, invest in growth, maybe pay down some debt, or even reward their shareholders with dividends.
Okay.
So a 42% increase is huge.
Wow.
It means that Expedia is becoming a lean, mean, profit-generating machine.
That's quite a turnaround.
It is.
Especially considering, they were in the red just a couple years ago.
Right. They've really tightened their belts, and it seems to be paying off.
Yeah.
And this leads us to the article's main argument, which is that Expedia is undervalued.
Okay. Tell me more about that. Why do they think that?
Well, let's talk about trading multiples.
Okay.
So basically, these are ratios that investors use to compare companies' market value to, some kind of financial metric like their earnings or their cash flow.
Okay.
And right now, Expedia is trading at 8.4 times free cash flow estimates for the next 12 months.
Okay. I'm with you so far, but what does that actually mean?
So essentially, it means that investors are paying $8.40 for every dollar of profit that the company is expected to generate.
Okay.
Now, if you compare that to Booking.com, their main competitor,
Mm.
Booking.com, is trading at 16.2 times free cash flow.
So Expedia is like half the price.
Exactly.
Makes
So it suggests that maybe the market isn't fully appreciating Expedia's potential.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So they're like a bargain right now.
Potentially. Yeah.
Yeah. But is there anything else that makes you think that they're a good investment?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any other signs pointing to them being a good buy?
Well, the article also mentions that Expedia is currently trading at just 11 times forward earnings,
Okay.
which, for context, is half of Booking's 22 times.
So it's like walking into a designer store and that handbag you've had your eye on is suddenly 50% off.
Exactly.
You'd be like, wait a minute.
You got to take a second look,
Yeah.
right? And here's the thing. To make it even more enticing, analysts are predicting some pretty impressive growth for Expedia, like a 21.5% surge in earnings per share this year, and another 20% in 2025.
Okay, so where's all this growth coming from?
Well, a big chunk of it is expected to come from VRBO, which is really interesting because it speaks to this whole trend of travelers wanting those alternative accommodations,
Right.
like cozy cabins, those cool city apartments.
That's the unique stays.
Exactly, the stuff you don't always find on those traditional hotel websites.
Right.
And then on top of that, Expedia's business-to-business division, which lets other travel companies use their platform, has also been exceeding expectations.
So it's like they've got, all these different engines driving their growth.
Exactly.
They're not just relying on one thing.
And that's a really good sign. And the article makes the case that the market hasn't really factored in this multifaceted growth potential, which again supports that idea that Expedia might be undervalued.
Okay, so to kind of like recap here,
Yeah,
we've got this company that's been through a lot, stock ups and downs, CEO changeover, those rumors about Uber.
right.
But they also, you know, made some smart moves streamlining their business, tapping into those changing travel trends, and their financials are looking pretty good.
Yeah, I think that's a great summary. It's a classic example of a company at a crossroads.
Yeah.
They've had their challenges, but they're also showing that they're resilient and that they have the potential to make a big comeback.
So the question is Expedia a diamond in the rough? Are they
Yeah.
going to rise to the top again? What are your thoughts?
Well, as with any investment, there's always going to be risks, but based on everything we've talked about today, Expedia seems to check a lot of the boxes.
Right.
They've got a strong position in the market. They're adapting to the changing travel landscape. Their
Yeah.
valuation is attractive. And then you throw in that possibility of an Uber acquisition.
Right. It's like that part in the movie where the underdog is starting to turn things around.
Yeah.
You don't know if they're going to win, but you're kind of rooting for them.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, the decision of whether to invest or not is a personal one, but hopefully we've given you the information you need to make an informed decision.
Absolutely. And that's what the deep dive is all about.
Yeah.
We want to dig deep into these topics to give you the insights you need to navigate the world of investing.
It's been a pleasure diving deep with you today.
And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has given you a new perspective on Expedia and maybe sparked your curiosity about the travel industry as a whole. Until next time, happy investing.